All right, here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Super Podcast Action Committee episode 123. It's going to be a long time before I get consecutive numbers going like that again.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to be really old when we're on episode 1, 2, 3, 4. Unless we start doing these every day, but we're not going to do that. I don't have the time.
Well, if James wants to pay us full wages, something to replace my salary, I'll do it every day.
Yeah. Yeah. And yes, Matthew, we actually added the IGDA stuff to the discussion, so that's going to be late in the show, but we will talk about that today. Yeah. With much snark. Hi, Zachary. How you doing?
Good. How are you, Andrew?
I'm okay. I am now a talking head.
All right.
I was on the Huffington Post.
I think you need to crop your shoulders out a little bit more, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There you go.
Is that okay? For those of you that don't know, I was invited onto a Huffington Post panel discussion discussing sexism and whether it should be a factor in game ratings. We'll talk about this a little bit more when we get to the poll, but so of course I'm like, oh, this is so neat, and I of course tell my mom because she's proud of her boy. Hey, and she says, great, one of my kids has a master's and the other one is a talking head.
Nice.
I'm sure she meant that in the most endearing way possible. She's proud of her little talking head.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But
oh no, it's ZACHARY. But yes, hello, Gamer Luch. But yeah, I'm kind of a talking head, but it's more local stuff. I'm really involved in in specific political issues here in Oklahoma, and I was on the local public radio station in a news report they did a couple weeks ago about ballot access for third parties, and I almost got on to the local public television station a couple weeks before that, but I missed the deadline for getting into that report, unfortunately. So yeah, so I'm kind of a talking head myself.
I guess it's better than being a talking ass.
Yeah, that's true, and there's a lot of those out there, and some of them even make a lot of money, unfortunately.
Oh well. I've been on usually when I'm on TV or radio, it's a singing thing. I'm usually it's usually, hey, we're advertising for our singing Valentine's thing that we do, and we'll do radio spots to advertise that, or we've done the national anthem at a ballpark before. That's usually televised.
That's cool.
Very, very rarely am I. And I'm trying to think, have I ever been on radio? I've been on some other folks' podcasts before, but I'm trying to think if I've ever been on TV or radio because someone was interested in my opinion. I don't believe so. So this might actually be the first time I've done anything like that. And it was a lot of fun. It was what I really liked about it is a lot of the times you see these discussions on MSNBC, Fox News, stuff like that, and they're like 2 minutes. Yeah. They don't allow the time to actually discuss anything. I mean, you have time for sound bites, and that's it. This was a nearly 20-minute discussion, which is still short, but it's enough to actually get some opinions and thoughts and ideas out there for people to chew on.
Yeah, that's about
make fun of us
what we do. Each of our topics we'll tend to spend 10 to 20 minutes on it.
Yeah. So, more about that in a bit, but in the meantime, let's see, what are we doing this week? I am off of as you all know, and, well, you should, because you should be totally interested in all my freelance stuff. I finished writing the Hyrule Warriors guide, finally, and now I'm writing the Lego Batman 3, Beyond Gotham guide, which, again, it's like, why did I take this project? Because, I mean, it's nowhere near as, I'll be done in another week, but it's nowhere near as long as Hyrule Warriors, but these Lego games it's a solid 3 weeks of work. They're just dense.
Oh, yeah.
There's 250 gold bricks to find. There's 147 character tokens and like 20 or 30 vehicle tokens, 20 red bricks. Adam West, you have to save 30 times.
My God, Adam West specifically in there.
Adam West is in the game, and
I saw a video where somebody was showing off somebody from WB or Traveler's Tale or something was showing off Lego Batman 3, and they brought up the character select menu, and I think took up almost over half of the television screen or something like that, like half of it. And that, I was like, that is a lot of characters in there.
I think it's 147.
Yeah,
is what it is. And there's some great characters. And although there are, if you've read the reviews, you probably know this, but there are 2 cameo characters. Kevin Smith, the guy who made Clerks and Mallrats, Chasing Amy, and Conan O'Brien are in the game.
Interesting.
And they're really out of place.
Yeah.
They actually, Conan O'Brien comes off the worst, mainly, and it's not totally his fault. It's mainly because he's like the tour guide. He's like, this is the bat computer, and it computes bats. And you're like, funny joke. But he says the same damn thing every single time you walk anywhere near him. Same line every time. I know the bat computer is Conan. What? And that's not his fault. That's Traveler's Tale again. It's like, did no one play this game? Seriously, if anyone actually played this game, they would have said, wow, that's annoying. How about he only talks when spoken to? You know, he'll only deliver his stupid line if you actually go up and talk to him. It's like, what the hell is that thing? Go up, talk to Conan O'Brien. Why, this is the bat computer that computes bats. That would solve the problem. Very simple thing, or maybe it's as difficult as animating women. I don't know.
Maybe.
And Kevin Smith is... They work in some weird, obscure jokes. I mean, they work in the old Kevin Smith, I wrote a draft of Superman, and the producer who knew nothing about Superman wanted a polar bear fight in it. They actually reference this. I'm like, wow, who would get that? I'm thinking, wait, I get that. Okay, well, I'm sure there are people dorky enough like me to get stuff like that. But there are some cameos that I think really work, like Adam West. I love the fact that Adam West himself is in there. I also like the fact that the Green Loon turn, Daffy Duck's turn as a Green Lantern, is actually in there. He might overstay his welcome slightly, but I think that was a good choice. Overall, I'm pretty pleased with the game. There are... Man, Traveler's Tales, if you would just play your game, you would find most of the problems. Most of them are real simple, just design issues, stuff that you probably don't think much about because you've done 20 of these, and you think you've got it down pat. You're like, it's a Lego game, just stamp, 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 we're done. No, play your game, and you'll realize, oh well, this sucks. We should change that. Bugs happen. I understand that. Video games are hard. But damn, play your game.
Yeah, but I do like the fact that they brought in the big figs into this one. After Marvel, the Marvel one, it's like Bane is now a big fig, Clayface is now one, Killer Croc, and I'm sure there's plenty others in there. The big Green Lantern guy, I think, is he in there?
Atrocitus, the Red Lantern, right?
Well, there's the Red Lantern, but there's Kilowog. Is he in there?
Kilowog, yeah, he's in there.
Yeah, so he'd be a big fig, and I like those big figs. I think they're cool. I think that's
except when they get stuck in the environment.
Yeah,
which hasn't happened as much as it did in Lego Marvel, to be fair. The big figs had a little bit of trouble in the Lego Marvel game, but they seem to have got most of that ironed out.
Well,
but still, if you like the Lego games, you really can't go wrong. You will have to put up with a few bugs and some really weird design decisions that are the kind of things that make you go, did nobody actually play this game? And it's such a
Yeah.
weird thing to ask because it's like, of course someone played this game, right?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, lots of people played the games. Millions of people paid $60 to play these games. So of course somebody's played them, but nobody at Traveler's Tales, of course.
Yeah.
But you would think that they would spend the time between Lego game releases to polish up the engine.
They released 3 Lego games this year alone. I don't think they're taking any time for polish.
True.
Nestor asks, will I be getting Watch Dogs on the Wii U? Probably not. I'm actually
At least
waiting.
not for $60.
Definitely not for $60. I absolutely will not pay $20 more for less content. You know, you can get Watch Dogs on any other platform for $30 to $40 right now, and you have of course you get all the DLC, or you have the ability to purchase all of the DLC. With the Wii U, it's $60, and you're missing out on one of the DLC packs. Bad Blood, I think it's called.
Yeah.
You get one of the DLC packs, and you get the pre-order bonus stuff as a DLC pack. So, in a manner of speaking, you again have to pay for something that other people had the opportunity to get for free.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that bugs me. You know, if they want to wait to release a game on a specific console, they really need to think about pricing. I don't know what it is about AAA publishers, but they have a specific pricing schedule that they stick to, regardless of circumstances. When a game is released for the first time on any console, $60. It doesn't matter if that game's been available on other consoles for 2 years. Still $60. You know, it makes no sense. You know, you would think that they would actually think about pricing and adjust it accordingly, but no, they just have this pricing schedule and they stick to it. That's it. It's really stupid.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, the Wii U is getting some of the DLC. Of course, some of the DLC is pre-order crap that other people had the opportunity to get for free, but not all of it. And from what I've read so far, the game actually runs fine, and is just as good as the Xbox 360 and PS3 versions, which is all anyone could ask for.
Yeah.
It's a shame that the gamepad. How is the gamepad used? From what I understand, there's a map on the screen, which you would expect. It does off-screen play, off-TV play, which you would expect. And you can, if you want to set a waypoint, you just poke the map where you want to set a waypoint, and waypoint set. Convenient, nice. You would kind of think, especially since this game is released 6 months after everything else, it's like, well, what the hell were you doing? Were you actually developing the game? Did you not start until the other ones were out of the way, or were you adding content? A lot of people had hopes that
add that map to the second screen.
Yeah, generic protagonist number 38 or whatever the guy, Aiden Pierce, I think his name is, the guy with the cap and scarf, and it's like no one will know who I am now. Where was it? So he uses a smartphone to hack the world. And a lot of people are thinking, oh, well, gamepad. So the gamepad can mimic the smartphone and you can do hacky stuff. Apparently not so much, which is a Dream Peppers. Hi, Andrew Eisen and the other guy.
Yes, I feel very loved right now.
Feel the love, Zachary. Feel the love, or other guy, rather. Oh, man. So yeah, I definitely won't be getting I almost said the Dreamcast. I don't know why. Watch Dogs for $60, but once it drops down to say $20, yeah, I might pick it up because a lot of people give that game crap. Oh, it sucked. But most of the reviews were pretty good. Most people gave it 8s. So I would be interested in checking it out, but I'm certainly not paying $60 for it. And a lot of people are like, like, why is this game getting delayed? Well, you don't want it to release against Mario Kart 8, do you? No, we want to release it against Super Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
What? You had. I mean, what was the tale for Mario Kart 8? It came out on May 30th, so people were playing it for 2, 3, 4 weeks after that. But you had July, August, and most of September with no competition. Nothing came out. I think One Piece Code Red or whatever it was called came out, and Shovel Knight was out in June. But really, they had the most of the entire summer and part of the fall free and clear, no competition.
Yeah, but that's another
Yeah.
that's another AAA thing, though. Big blockbuster games do not release in the summer. Just because kids are out of school and have tons of time to play video games is no reason to release a blockbuster game. You've got to release it either in the spring or in the holiday season.
That's right.
No time else. There's no other time to release a AAA title. And yeah.
But would we pay full price $60 for Watch Dogs on the Dreamcast? I might pay $60 for a Dreamcast port just out of sheer damn curiosity. But it better have VMU support, I tell you what.
Oh yeah, it's got to have that.
So, let's see. What have you been playing this week?
Golly. So far this week, I played more Angry Birds Epic, and
You're part of the problem.
Yes, I am. I haven't purchased anything.
You stinking casual. You're not a real gamer.
I'm not a real gamer anymore. I don't play games on my consoles. But and then I also played a developer here in Oklahoma called F5 Games. They released their latest game called The Hunted. It's a mobile game, and it's a top-down shooter, twin stick shooter for the iPhone. And they actually figured out a pretty clever way of making it work as a twin stick shooter, and they also gave the game a limited field of view, so like you can only see what's in front of your character up to certain peripheral vision, and so it looks really cool, and it plays pretty well. I still have issue with the touch controls, but a lot of people seem to master it pretty well. But the game is it's pretty much all online. Like you jump into the game, and you can join somebody's existing match or start your own match, and they have a lot of modes, death match and capture the flag, and I think capture the flag, I don't know, but like King of the Hill, that kind of stuff, and from the amount of time I've played it, it's pretty fun. They have an online demo where you can play it with your keyboard and mouse, and I think it plays a lot better on that personally, just because I suck at touchscreen controls. But yeah, it's called The Hunted, and there's the main premises of the game is there's 9 hunters from various planets who were kidnapped by some aliens and stuck in an arena and endlessly cloned so that they can battle each other to death for the aliens' enjoyment, and so a lot of clever characters and stuff in there. So I plan to play more of it, but I haven't had a lot of time this week with it just because I have issues staying connected. But other than that, I haven't played any games, so I feel bad.
So in the shout box, this is chat box. Let's see, we've got what was I gonna? Nintendo is out of the GameCube controller adapters for Smash Brothers. Not too surprising.
That's not surprising, no.
I mentioned this in the Game Politics shout box earlier today, but really, I just want a new GameCube controller because my controller is on its last legs. The stick's a little bitty bit loose. It still works just fine, but I've been for years. I have been keeping my eye out for a official GameCube controller, and I'm glad they're re-releasing a natural controller.
Oh yeah,
I'm not gonna play Smash Brothers, but I'm happy to play. But I do play GameCube games. In fact, I was playing Pikmin 2 a couple weeks ago. So I still play that. What else?
I'm definitely wanting to pick up a bunch of those. How much are they? I haven't even looked.
The GameCube
the re-release, yeah.
$30.
$30? That's not
bad. Last time I checked, they're not a bit. That's what they cost originally. So it's more than I really want to pay for a controller. I'm like $20 seems like a good price.
Yeah, they're not going to hit $20 for a while. Though.
In fact, the official GameCube controllers never did. They were always $30.
Yeah.
But the last time I looked on Amazon, they were out of stock. So I'm not in a big yank to get one. But hey, birthday's coming up. If anyone wants to buy me stuff. Dream Peppers makes me feel really old by pointing out that Donkey Kong Country is 20 years old today, and I played that when I was a teenager in high school. So.
Yeah, I remember when I was in high school getting when I bought my very own Game Boy. It was the Game Boy Pocket, and the first game I bought was Donkey Kong Land. So this was a little while after Donkey Kong Country was came out, but yeah, that was the very first Game Boy game I ever purchased myself, and I played Donkey Kong Country on the Super Nintendo back when we had it. Played that tons in high school. So yeah, we're old.
Yeah, I do love the Donkey Kong Country games. Those games are great.
Yeah,
the newer ones, the retro ones, or the ones made by Retro, are fantastic.
Yeah,
some of the best level design ever, in my opinion.
Yeah,
even I'll say something controversial, even better than Mario Galaxy. Yeah, I said it. So let's see. Okay, so let us start the show and talk about the poll, which I actually need to close. So let me do that. The poll this week asks. Should sexism factor into a game's rating? And as soon as I close the poll, I'll tell you how many people voted and how they voted. Okay, 556 people voted this week. A lot of interest in this one. Probably helped that we got a little traffic from the Huffington Post, too.
Definitely.
So, should, the ESRB, now granted this is not asking specifically for the ESRB, but video game ratings in general. The ESRB has 30 different content descriptors. They range from violence, profanity, sexuality, drugs and alcohol. There's even one for you can gamble with real money in this game. So, real wide range of stuff. Should sexism be a factor in video games ratings? 556 people responded, and 45 of them, 8%, said yes, it should. The winning vote, 296 votes, 53% said no, it should not. 177 people, 32%, said only as a content descriptor, it should not affect the rating. And 38 people, 7%, said whatever, I don't care. I admit I voted whatever, I don't care. But let me qualify that a bit. I'm old, I'm an adult. But even when I was a kid, I don't care about the rating, and this goes for movies and TV programs, video games, music. I don't care what the content is because, for me personally, and this is just me, there is nothing that I can think of that you could put in a video game or movie or book or whatever that would offend me. So, so it's not useful to me. So if so should we add sexism to the? I don't care. I don't even know what a game or movie is rated half the time. I can usually take a wild guess, but I don't know. I don't care.
Yeah. What really offends me is sheer boredom. I tried to read Stephen King. Stephen King's this really big author. Everybody loves him, and whatever. But I tried to read a couple of his books, I was bored to tears, and I just tossed the books away. I was
Wait,
just
whose books?
Stephen King.
Oh, King's. Okay.
Yeah, like
He's
I tried to read Cujo once, and I got like 3 chapters in, and I couldn't stand the book just because it was so freaking boring. But as for
good.
yeah, but as for the poll, I voted. I was a little torn because I'm part of the whatever I don't care camp. But I'm also one of those people that's like, if somebody somebody's going to do it, and if it's not the SRB, it's going to be some third party that like they did there's Christian sites that base they rate games based on Christian values and that kind of stuff and things like that, and I'm like, they're probably I could see a site like that popping up, and you could check that against sexist content or whatever and stuff, and I'm like, that's going to happen. So as long as it doesn't affect the ratings, then I don't care if somebody wants to do it. But I'm not one of those ones that think it should be mandated or anything. It should be completely voluntary, just and it shouldn't affect the ratings, because sexism and feminism and that kind of stuff isn't really it's not something that I think you could quantify to an age rating.
Yeah.
And that's where that's where I feel. So I voted only as a content descriptor, but I kind of fell into both of those camps. The whatever and only as a content descriptor.
Yeah, I'm of several minds about this, and I said some of this on the Huffington Post discussion. As long ratings should be to inform a consumer about the content that they're thinking about purchasing, so that they can make an informed purchasing decision. It should not be a judgment of quality. It should not be a value judgment, either of the product, the work in question, or of the person who wishes to consume it. It should only be information. And I think if there are enough people who would be interested in knowing if certain types of content are in video games, then it has value being listed on the back of the box. Unfortunately, as you said, sexism is really hard to... It's an incredibly broad and multifaceted topic, so you can't just have a sexism stamp. I don't think it would work as, sexism. Well, what does that even mean? That could mean a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
And, so you'd probably have to break it down into a bunch of stuff, but a lot of it gets... I mean, all of it's subjective to an extent, but a lot of what I think of when I think of breaking down sexism into categories is really super subjective. I mean, it's like poorly written female character. By whose standards,
Yeah.
I mean, do you just, features the damsel in distress trope? Well, okay. And the damsel in distress trope inherently has sexist elements to it, but it's not problematic in and of itself. I mean, should we change the rating of Super Mario Brothers because it features the damsel in distress trope? I don't think so.
No.
So what do you do with it? And Sweden is researching, what are we doing with, they're researching this exact thing. They got a grant to research into should sexism be a part of game ratings, and they're looking into everything from should it be a part of the rating, or should we perhaps create some type of gold stamp of approval that this is an inclusive title, kind of like the Nintendo seal of quality. This should not offend anyone's feminist sensibilities, or whatever the opposite of feminist is. I don't know. MRA sensibility. I don't know.
Yeah. And Nestor in the comments, he says saying a game that has sexual themes or is sexist is like the difference between saying a game contains violence is immoral or amoral.
Exactly. One is describing what content you can expect in the game, and the other is somewhat of a value judgment, which I don't think it's a ratings place
Yeah.
to make.
Yeah, like you said, ratings should be objective. It should just be, really the actual age rating itself is very subjective. But the content descriptors should be as objective as possible. And putting something in there like sexism or something like that turns that into a very subjective list. Sure, you and I can banter and argue over the differences between crude humor and slapstick humor, or cartoon violence versus realistic violence, or whatever, or just generic violence tag. We could argue about the semantics between those two, but they're at least somewhat objective in their goal. And to this day, I still don't know why Smash Brothers is a T-rated game. But so with something like this, it definitely needs to avoid affecting that rating it as much as possible. And I honestly don't see how you could meld the two effectively, because it like we said, it is a very kind of an oil and water thing. Matthew brings up Bayonetta. Bayonetta, could be welcomed and lifted up as a strong female character that women enjoy, but feminists, might not like it because she's overly sexualized and stuff.
Hell, even feminists can't agree on Bayonetta. Some say that she owns her sexuality, and she's she's a great character who owns her sexuality and acts exactly the way she wants on her own terms.
Yeah.
Others, take it a different direction, say that she's subject to the male gaze, and I know that's an outdated term, but we haven't come up with a better one yet. So. So when no one can really agree on, well, is Bayonetta sexist? There's certainly sexist elements to it from different perspectives, but how do you quantify that and put it on the back of the box?
Yeah, and another thing is, take stripping and prostitution. While there are certain segments of the female population who look at those professions as overly sexist and stuff, a lot of the women in those professions look at it as, I'm using what I can do. I'm using what I know best, and I know exactly what I'm doing when I'm doing this, and this is the way that I want to work. They again, like you said with Bayonetta, they own their sexuality and they know what they're doing with it. But so it's it is very hard to quantify and say that something is sexist when a lot of people, even within the women community, don't agree on it. And like for me, this is kind of an interesting and kind of a funny thing, but one of my favorite games is a PlayStation game called Battle Hunter, and it's basically a shovelware title, but it's a lot of fun for what it is, and in the game you can unlock wallpapers, to display on the menu screen, and one of them has basically the main character that you talk to, sitting on and it's a guy sitting on a throne, and he's surrounded by Chippendale dancer type guys. and I just always thought that was kind of funny, and because it's basically outing this character as a gay character, but it's like, would that be considered a sexist trope, or a homophobic trope? And it's like, would that you know, as we talk about this, would that apply? Because that's another thing, you know, that if you're going to talk about, you know, sexism in video games, you know, what about homophobia or something along those lines? You know, you've got to be able to think about that, because, you know, that is another minority that tends to get certain representation within games, and and so that would be where the conversation would naturally lead.
Yeah. You also wonder how things like inclusiveness would be handled.
Yeah.
For example, there are no women in this game. You know, does that
There are
get
no
any,
guys in this game either.
does that get any type of play on the ratings or on the sexism scale? What if it's a a realistic World War II shooter where there were no women fighting on the front lines in World War II so far as I know, or it was very very rare. What if it didn't make sense for the narrative for there to be female characters in it? Would that make a difference, or would you still have to note it? So yeah, Sweden's got their work cut out for them. I hope that grant goes a long way, because there are a lot of questions, and it's like, how would you do that? Should you do it? How would you? I mean, I reserve judgment until I know what the heck they actually plan to do with it. But
yeah, it's and right now, yeah, like they definitely need to come up with something, and it'd be something I'd be interested in reading.
Yeah,
it's just but like you said, right now it's just, this is something we want to do. That's the extent of it at the moment. There is no plan.
Or they might look into it and say, no, it's a bad idea, we're not doing it.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on, just real quick, what are your thoughts on the Bechdel test?
The Bechdel test.
That's come up quite a few times over the past couple of years.
and people are very hesitant to use the Bechdel test as a basis of rating a work, and rightfully so. The Bechdel test, this is something I actually wanted to talk about on the Huffington Post discussion, but didn't get a chance to. The Bechdel test has its place. It is valuable as a broader examination of gender representation in various media. But what it is not made for is it shouldn't be used as a judgment of quality. It's not meant for that. For those of you who don't know, the Bechdel test is based on a newspaper comic strip from like the 80s. It was a one-off joke, but it actually snowballed and became a thing. So the Bechdel test is essentially, are there two or more women? Are there at least two women in this work? Do they talk to each other? And do they talk to each other about something other than a guy? And the point is that's such a low baseline that, but you'd be hard pressed to come up with enough works that actually pass this test, and that is indicative of a wider problem or a wider issue.
Yeah.
It does. If a film does not pass the Bechdel test, it certainly doesn't mean the movie's no good.
Yeah.
I mean, probably one of the more popular recent examples would be the film Gravity, which was a highly I didn't like it, but most people really liked Gravity, but it fails the Bechdel test because there's only one. Sandra Bullock's the only woman.
Well, there's technically two in it, but the other woman dies.
Was she one of the pilots of the ship?
Yeah.
I don't think she has any lines.
No, she doesn't. But she dies.
She just shows up dead later.
Minutes. But yeah, like Gravity fails it. Alien is another example that gets brought up with.
Now there are two women in that. Sigourney Weaver and Nancy.
The first one, I don't.
Do they not talk to each other in that movie?
I don't know.
Did you say Aliens or Alien?
No, Alien, the first one.
Right.
The second one, there's the little girl, and but yeah, but that's another one that's brought up a lot. But just talk about the low bar of this. If you have two women in a film, and the only time they meet is like in the third act of the film, they talk about the weather for like 2 seconds, and then they're
it passes.
It passes. That's how low the bar is.
Yeah, the Bechdel test is absolutely not not to be used as a judgment of a film or work's quality. So says this talking head. So
Yeah.
don't do it because it's not a good idea.
Now, just one last question about this.
Mhm.
Okay, say you do have two women in there and they do talk. Does their entire conversation, get thrown out the window if boys are brought up at any time? Say they're talking about, one of them pulls up in a Porsche, and the other one's like, "Wow, where'd you get that Porsche? That's really cool." And they talk about the Porsche, and it's like how well it drives, and then she mentions, "Yeah, and I took my boyfriend out for a spin the other night, and he got so jealous." Does that fail the Bechdel test?
I don't think Bechtel put that much thought into it. It was damn 80s, But it has come up with a life of its own. But it is an interesting standard to examine, to broadly examine certain types of media.
Yeah.
And but
I
you
don't
flip
think
that
they're-
around, and it's like, well, how many movies can you think of that have at least two guys in it that talk to each other about something other than a woman? Most every single movie out there, right? So it just informs you about gender representation of media and a bit about culture.
Yeah.
It's certainly not a value judgment and should not be used as such.
I think if you were to apply the Bechdel test, you couldn't apply the Bechdel test as is for video games. You would have to change it up. I would say a good low bar would be, does the game have a playable female character? That would be the first thing, and it should be a main
Is
character.
her clothing sensible for what she's doing?
Yes, that was going to be my second one. Is she wearing something appropriate for the task at hand? And to be honest, I don't know what a third factor
Now,
would be,
distracting enemies with her overt sexuality would be a good reason to wear something skimpy or
but
something
when your
ridiculous.
enemies are a mile and a half away, that really doesn't apply.
Well, also, if you are, if it's a military shooter and the guys are all dressed in full military gear and the girls are, they have a hole here and holes back here and in their clothing. I mean, not after they get shot or any other thing you might have been thinking. It's like okay, military fatigues for the guys. The women must have boob windows. That's like, but vital organs are here. I should have Kevlar here. Maybe transparent Kevlar? So you never know. All right. Thank you everyone for participating in the poll. One more thing I wanted to mention regarding the Huffington Post discussion. Another thing I didn't get a chance to mention is the host said in GTA you can do all these awful things. You can run people with a car, shoot them, stab them in the face, and sexually assault people. And then he stopped and said, I may have made that last one up. I was going to interject, yes, you made the last one up, sexual assault in GTA, but I didn't get a chance. So there we are.
Yeah.
And there was something else I didn't get a chance to discuss, but I don't.
Oh, there was lots of things.
Well, that's the nature of fairly short panel discussions. So. Yeah. Nestor says the women wear eye patches, but not on their eyes.
Very true.
Then again, you ask, since when do video game characters have to be appropriately dressed for what they're doing? Yeah, is Mario really appropriately dressed for what he's doing? I mean, he's wearing what look like fairly decent, sturdy shoes, but he's wearing overalls and a shirt and gloves. Why is he wearing? I don't know.
Well, he's a plumber. Plumbers, you wouldn't want to wear gloves.
He's not doing any
messing
plumbing
around with toilets and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know what he should be wearing.
There's pipes. Hey, at least he's wearing overalls and not like pants that show his butt crack every time he turns around.
Mario should be an assless chaps. The Goombas would be like, doot doot doot. Oh my God, doot 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 is gonna wander the other way. And Peach would be like, your princess is in another castle. Get away from me, creepy man. Or maybe he'd rock the assless chaps. Who knows?
Who knows?
He'd be like, Luigi only wishes he looked as good. It should be an alternate costume for Super Smash Brothers.
There we go.
He and Shulk in his shorts can go out and give the ladies an eye pull. So, all right, let us move on to another topic.
All right.
So, 'tis the season of games, as we mentioned, the fall. Lots of games like to come out all at the same time because we all like to spend all of our money all at once to play all of our games all at the same time because we have nothing better to do. It's not like there's two major holidays and a bunch of two major family-oriented holidays and a bunch of travel planning that gets in the way. So we should have all our games right here. None of the games seem to be working this fall. Ubisoft has been having problems. Assassin's Creed Unity has had some humongous bugs. The faces keep disappearing. The characters fall through the floor. People can't seem to get online. The crowds are doing the Michael Jackson lean type of thing.
Yeah, I just watched a video where the main character goes into this big throne room thing, and it's like completely blank. All that's in there are the character meshes.
Welcome to the void.
Yeah.
Far Cry 4 apparently is having a bunch of issues also. But it's not just Ubisoft, to be fair. Sony
it's not just Traveler's Tales. Yeah.
Right. Sony was having a lot of difficulty with the Drive Club. People can get that to work. Destiny didn't work. GTA 5 was having a problem with porting profiles in from other versions of the game. GTA San Andreas, Steam did an update that rendered GTA San Andreas. That's probably not Rockstar's fault, but the update made old saves for GTA San Andreas unplayable. And even Nintendo, apparently Smash Brothers ended up banning people for like 1 million years for something.
Nice.
What else am I? There are more, but
I'm sure there's plenty out there. It's a very common thing these days. Yeah. I can't think of any specific examples though, other than what you've listed.
I think if anything kills pre-orders, maybe this will finally do it. I mean, I have to think that at some point gamers are going to be like, now wait just a minute. Maybe I'm asking too much here, but when I drop 60 bones for a game, I have this basic expectation that it will work, that I'll be able to play it. You know, I don't spend $60 on a game and set it on my shelf and it's like, I can't wait to play that in 2 weeks when they patch it, or 3, 4, 5, or 6 weeks. Dream Peppers, was Sonic Boom having technical issues, or did it just suck?
I think it just sucked.
As far as I know, it just sucked. I don't know if it actually had any.
I'm sure there's some bugs in there, but I doubt the bugs overshadowed the general suckiness of the game.
Yeah, to be fair to Lego Batman 3, I haven't encountered it. No, I did encounter one bug that made me quit a level and restart it, but okay, I take that back.
Yeah, but let's see. Like you said, with pre-orders, it's like, let's say you're going to the movies, okay, and Star Wars 7 is released. It's coming up to release night. You're standing in line. You've been in line for 4 hours to see Star Wars 7. On the very first showing at your local theater. And you get there, you have your ticket, you go in the theater, you sit down, and from minute one, it's just a bunch of problems after problems after problems. One, the audio is not synced, the special effects look like they're from the 1920s, and the projector flips a couple of times, and the light goes out and the sound is on, and it's like, if you went to a movie and that kind of stuff happened, you would walk out and go to the ticket counter and demand your money back, and then you would go and rag on the on Disney for really screwing up, the Star Wars, the new Star Wars movie.
And then I would give them a very poor Yelp review.
Exactly. Go to Rotten Tomatoes and give them a 75 because the movie sucked. But
That's an appropriate use of the service right there.
Yeah,
the presentation sucks, so the movie sucked.
But people don't accept messes when it comes to movies. You wouldn't accept a book if it was typo after grammar error. If you bought a book, you would not accept that. But for some reason, we've gotten to a point where I
think even the better analogy would be like if you bought a book and there were pages missing, and the publisher's like, "We'll mail them to you in a couple of weeks."
There we go.
No, I expect all the pages when I buy the book.
Yeah. I don't understand why gamers have accepted the idea that games are going to have bugs, and we're just gonna have to live with it. And there are a lot out there, like you and I, we both complain about bugs, and a lot of people on blogs and news sites complain about them. But it doesn't matter. There's going to be almost as many people who pre-ordered the next Assassin's Creed game as pre-ordered this one, and as long as that happens, nothing is going to change. And to be honest, I blame Sony and Microsoft for this. The PC had this problem for a while, and it was kind of just relegated to PC, and people kind of dealt with it because that's just the way PC worked. But it wasn't until the PS3 and the 360 that publishers got lazy with their development of console games. Because the PS3 and the 360 allowed publishers to patch games after launch. That was a totally brand new thing, and then publishers took that ball and ran with it, and they're still running with it. They're like, we'll just patch it at launch. No need to bug test these things before we send it off to the master press. We'll just patch it at launch. And that's what they do, and it's terrible, terrible business practice.
Pre-order numbers equal how many beta testers do we have?
Exactly.
I'm just not sure why people bother pre-ordering. I mean, do you think that if you don't pre-order Assassin's Creed 4 that there won't be a copy for you? I mean, do you really think you're going to go into GameStop and be like, oh my gosh, I should have pre-ordered. I can't find Assassin's Creed anywhere.
That's something that actually is something that GameStop themselves has kind of fueled, because they will when they purchase games for a launch day, they will purchase enough to cover the pre-orders and then like maybe 5 or 6 other copies, to satisfy walk-ins. And that's it, and that fuels that expectation that if you don't pre-order, you're not going to get it on launch. But the truth is if everybody stopped pre-ordering, say Halo 5 is that even out yet? I forget.
No. The Master Chief Collection came out though.
Yeah. So like if Halo 5 is coming out and nobody pre-ordered it, there's no way GameStop's going to say, oh, nobody wants Halo 5, so we'll just buy 6 copies and leave it at that. They'll just, there's no way they would assume that. And so they would go out and buy, at least 20 copies a store. But yeah, it's just, GameStop has fueled the expectation. If you don't pre-order it, you're not going to get it for like 3 weeks after launch.
I suppose, but I buy a fair amount of games, and then again, I own the Wii U, so there's plenty of them, or plenty of copies of the individual games that are released on the system. But I rarely ever hear of, holy crap, this game sold out, no one can find it anywhere. It usually happens with hardware, like as Matthew's pointing out, the GameCube controller adapter for the Wii U. But other than that, are the pre-order incentives that cool? I mean, I will be honest. I did pre-order a game once upon a time, and it was The Legend of Zelda, so I could get the awesome gold one. But yeah, I pre-ordered that from Babbage's. You remember Babbage's? So
I have never pre-ordered a game, but I've never bought a game on within that launch month. I tend to wait a while before I buy games, and so I ignore all pre-order bonuses, and they tend to tick me off because
especially if it's in-game content.
yeah, and Soul Calibur 5, they had a pre-order character. The only character I wanted to play was a pre-order bonus for a specific retailer, and that ticked me off.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I think pre-orders are one of the reasons why things are the way they are with buggy games on release, because the publishers know that they have this much demand for the game for this launch date, so they have to reach that launch window, that launch date, and if they don't, then they're totally screwed, and so they just release what they have for that date, and then just fix things later.
Well, I don't think pre-orders are necessarily a bad thing. I think they're just being abused. I think that
Yes.
publishers need to re-earn our trust.
Yeah.
Show that they can, play with their toys correctly, and But by the way, it's not just the box; the cartridge is gold too.
But
So
I think personally, if I were to ever get into the habit of pre-ordering a game, I think the only time I would ever pre-order it would be from like a site like Amazon,
yeah,
where they will ship it to me once it's available. Because I'm not going to pre-order a game and then deal with the crap at GameStop and try to buy it. It's just like I want it on my doorstep on launch day. Pick it up in my pajamas and then sit down and play it.
yeah.
But,
Actually, most of my games I buy from Amazon because I'm really in no big yank to get them because I have very little free time anyway. I admit I did get Lego Batman 3 from GameStop, and I had to buy my own copy because Warner Brothers didn't send out enough new copies. And I just went into GameStop and picked it up, and it's no big deal. So, Matthew thinks I say pre-orders are not necessarily a bad thing. It's just when they're used for ill. Matthew says no, they're a bad thing.
Yeah.
Then that it's actually hard to disagree with in a lot of ways too. But pre-orders enable publishers to do bad things, but pre-orders also enable publishers to do good things. But they're not doing any of those. They're just taking advantage of us, and I think we should. You can't just. It's like, all this is the true Gamergate. Stop pre-ordering. We're gonna force them damn publishers to treat us with respect.
Yeah.
Sell us working games. And again, to be fair, Matthew actually reminded me of something because he was listing Activision, EA, and Ubisoft as people he wouldn't pre-order from. Call of Duty Advanced Warfare was also having some problems. Now, to be fair, a lot of these games, it's the online component that's being sticky. And sometimes, no matter how much you test, if your game sells 15 million copies or something and the servers go, that's really hard to anticipate. And sometimes it's like, well, that happens, we'll cut you some slack. But in Assassin's Creed 4's case, a lot of the problem, they're having connectivity problems, don't get me wrong, but a lot of the problems are happening just single player online.
Yeah, they're
this is just, the game don't work.
Yeah.
So, all right, let us move to one final topic, and this is one that we added at the very last minute because I didn't even hear about this till today because I've had my head stuck in Lego Batman for a week. So the IGDA, International Game Developer Association, has been in the last several months trying to curate a list of resources that people who are being harassed, or at least feel they're being harassed on Twitter and other social media places, will have somewhere to go to see what their options are. And a couple of days ago, on the, what is today, 22nd? I think on the 19th, so 3 days ago, the IGDA published their harassment page, which is a really long page, which has a whole FAQ about if I'm being harassed, what do I do? Who can I turn to? What are my options? How do I get it to stop? Can I get it to stop? You know, all kind, and they answer questions like that as best they can, and they provide a bunch of different resources that you can use, such as, you know, here is who you would call. You know, here is the portion of Twitter you would go to report abuse. You know, if, you know, someone's threatening your life, you know, here are the police and FBI and all that kind of stuff. One of the many things on this list was a tool that is meant to block people on Twitter. This tool, this blocking list, was ostensibly a list of some of the worst offenders on Twitter, the people who are known for harassing people and just being real nasty twerps. In addition to that, it was also, and the people who follow them, so that, you know, not only do you not get crap from these horrible people, but you don't get the retweeted and followed stuff from them. Because I guess the idea is, if you follow this numbskull, you're probably not too cool yourself. Which is probably not the best way to look at it, but hey, whatever gets you out of my Twitter feed.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, whoever added that to IGDA's list, I don't think they actually looked at the content of this block list, because there are over 10,000 names in this list. That should be a red flag right there, I would think. 10,000? It's like, well, I could think of a solid dozen people who should probably be on that list, and I'm sure you could come up with maybe a couple dozen more. But 10,000? Whoa! Who wrote this? And then you look and you see, oh, this is a list compiled and curated by some person on Twitter. Just some person. I'm sure a very lovely person, but really just some person with, I forget, you know, not too many followers. You read the profile, and this is not some known person or someone who identifies as like a software engineer or really just some person. It's like, okay, so we took some random Twitter person's algorithm and list of 10,000 plus people as a, you know, block all these people and hopefully that will reduce the harassment. They also did not take the time to read through the list, because not only are a couple of our readers at Game Politics on the list, like Wondercarp, who was rather put off by being included, there are also several game developers on the list, including the chairman of the Puerto Rico version of the IGDA. Yeah. And I think Kentucky Fried Chicken, their Twitter account is on there.
It was on there.
It's like, what? So, a lot of people said, you know, why the hell am I on this list? I don't harass anybody, and just because I follow someone who may have done so doesn't make me a bad person. And the IGDA apparently finally looked at what this tool was and said, ooh. So Kate Edwards, who is the main IGDA person, went on Twitter and said, you know, we make mistakes. The tool doesn't do what it's supposed to, so we've removed it for now. And that's the story. IGDA, their heart was in the right place, but the individual person who added that really should have looked into it a little bit closer, because there were a lot of red flags. I think the idea of some type of blocking utility maybe isn't such a bad idea, but it should probably be made by someone other than just some random person on Twitter. And
I would think something like that would be better if it was actually associated with Twitter, but I don't think Twitter would really be interested in something like that. You know, they put out their tools for, you know, you can block specific users. So if you get tweets from somebody you don't like, you can click on their name and you know, the whatever icon is next to it and say block this user, and you will never see a tweet from them again. And you know, and they can't follow you and whatever. You know? So you know, that's a very powerful tool. But I think Twitter would rather not put out something that's automated out there and blacklisting specific usernames. I don't think they would be interested in that. But you know, something like that definitely should have some kind of authority behind it, rather than, like you said, just some random guy on Twitter. So.
Yeah. So, you know, and that ended up really offending a lot of people, and I can kind of see where they're coming from. I don't know if I'm on the list. I didn't feel like paging through it, but
yeah, I haven't looked myself.
I was trying to think, like, how would I feel if I were on the list? And I really tried to put myself in that position and thought about it. I'm like, I don't care. But that's probably just me, because I'm, like I said earlier, you can't offend me with content. You know, if you don't want to talk to, you know, if some goober added me to a list on Twitter, it's like, if you don't want to be harassed, don't follow any of these people. Whatever, I don't care. But again, that's just me. But you know, I mean, at least the IGDA did notice that, well, this tool isn't doing what we thought it was, and took it down. It's interesting that when this first started getting discussed in the shout box, I thought we might be. I thought Wondercarp and Matthew and a few other people talking about it were referring to a different tool I had read about a week or so ago, and I can't remember what it's called, but it's a similar blocking utility, which was not developed to prevent harassers from harassing you. It was developed to keep Gamergate spam, and it was developed specifically for Gamergate. It was developed to keep Gamergate spam out of your damn Twitter feed, because some Gamergaters can be very retweet happy. In fact, there are movements in, you know, everybody retweet everybody's tweets and retweet those, and it ends up circling. So if you follow just one of these people, and then your feed fills up with a bunch of crap. That's what the blocking list that I was familiar with was built to do, and I figured that, you know, that was what they were talking about. Come to find out that the blocking list that the IDGA hosted appeared, or at least they thought it was, a list of mostly people most of the bad apples. But it's pretty clear that they didn't look, because, as Matthew just pointed out, Penguin Books is on there too, and I don't know if they've harassed anybody.
Nice.
Maybe their books are kind of crap, but you know. Matthew, that's another thing Matthew was arguing in the shop box, is there may be some legal issues with IGDA promoting the list, regardless of whether they host a disclaimer on the page saying that we don't, you know, these are just tools, resources to use. You take responsibility for it. We don't. I don't know if they're out of legal trouble. I do know there are laws against blacklisting as far as you know, developers hiring other people, or anyone hiring other people. But I don't know. I'm no legal person. I'm not a lawyer. But this doesn't seem like the same thing to me.
No, this isn't. You know, this is like. I'd say more along the lines of, golly, how would I describe this? Because it's not really like the this specific list might be like the no-fly list from the government. You know, the list of people who aren't allowed to fly. There's no rhyme or reason for why these people are on there. You know, some of them belong on it, but other ones are just like, what? Why am I not on
positives? The list.
But yeah, you know, it's just, I don't think there's a legal, you know, any legal case for, you know, if you're on this list, you know, specifically because it's curated by some no-name third-party person, and use of the list is completely voluntary by whoever wants to use it on Twitter. And, you know, there's There is nothing like that. You know, if this were Twitter's thing and Twitter had a blacklist of people and you could and they automatically applied that, you know, that might be up for legal challenge of some sort, but I don't think some third-party guy's list isn't going to.
True, but given that this is the International Game Developers Association, and they've, though it was a mistake and corrected, you know, the Game Developers Association posted a list of ostensibly people who harass others on Twitter. Could that be a form of libel? Could that be here's a list of people that you absolutely shouldn't hire? Could it be interpreted in that way from a legal standpoint?
I think with, you know, libel and defamation and stuff, there has to be intent behind it. You know, just listing saying, you know, just producing a giant list with no context other than this is a list of people who you know might be harassed, you know people you don't want following you or talking to you on Twitter. I don't think that in itself would fall under libel or defamation. You know, if they picked out specific names and said, you know, this, don't let this person follow you and don't talk to him because of such and such and such, you know, that could be open up for it. But I don't think a general list with with it just being a link, you know, I don't think that would really qualify.
Well, I'm trying to remember what the exact wording on the page was, but it said something to the tune of, this tool will help remove some of the worst harassers.
Yeah, it was basically that. Yeah, it was like one sentence, and that was it.
Which, you know, you could take to mean like, you know, this is a list of people, some of them are bad apples, but you could also take that to mean this is a list of assholes, some of them are the worst, you know?
Yeah.
But I think the fact that this was very clearly a boo-boo.
Yeah.
This
is the actual wording, okay? It says, a Twitter tool to block some of the worst offenders in the recent wave of harassment. So that's the extent of it, and you know, it's basically just describing the tool, and the description of the tool, it would you know, would lend itself to being in good faith, you know, on the IGDA's part. You know, they wrote that in the good faith that the tool worked as
what they thought it did. Yeah.
You know, and so they're not talking about any specific users. So yeah, I think that would very, very easily protect them from any kind of legal challenge.
So okay, you know, IGDA made a boo-boo and fixed it. Hopefully they're a little bit more careful with the things they add to the harassment page. Hopefully all the phone numbers, you know, hopefully the you know, the FBI phone number doesn't go to a sex line or something like that. It's like, for crying out loud, IGDA, do you guys like call the number first just to make sure it actually goes where you think? Did you actually look at the list? No, you didn't.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. I think IGDA is not actually looking at the stuff that they put on their harassment FAQ or harassment tools list. Traveler's Tale doesn't play the games that they sell to us. The IGDA and Traveler's Tale may be the same body. They don't actually vet the stuff they give us.
Yeah.
I've got some tinfoil. I'm gonna go make a hat after the podcast. So I think that's good for this week. So actually, Mixlist Double G says, drop the W in my name, but says, will we ever be able to play Virtual Console games on the gamepad?
Did they not allow?
I think I guess you mean the Wii Virtual Console.
Or does he mean the GameCube controller? Because I believe right now it's just you can only use it with Smash Brothers.
Because the
GameCube controllers.
The GameCube controller.
That's my
Well, this
interpretation.
is
Because
a gamepad, so I
I
don't
thought
know.
the gamepad allowed offline play of Virtual Console games.
Yeah, yeah, if they're on the Wii U eShop,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Uh, I bought Link to the Past. Do you want me to fire up and see? I think I can play it on. I'm pretty sure. Yes, I'm almost positive you can play Wii U eShop bought Virtual Console games on the gamepad. Wii, the ones you buy from the Wii eShop, which you actually yeah, the Wii Virtual Console shop that you can get to from the Wii U. Yeah, I think you can. I think, as Nestor pointed out, you can use the gamepad as a screen, but you still have to actually use the Wii compatible controllers, which include the remote and
The classic controller
the
Pro and all
classic
that.
controller and some of the others. Mine's black because it's awesome. Got it with Xenoblade Chronicles. Yeah,
Yeah, I've got the white
maybe
one.
heard of it.
I have. Well,
So, okay, I think we're done for the week. Thank you, everyone, for hanging out with us and chatting and voting in the poll. I'll try and get another one up this week. In the meantime, let's plug our stuff and get out of here. And my name's Andrew Eisen. Eisen is the last name. You can find me on YouTube. I'll try to make actually some more original content once I'm done with my freelance work. I did get all of the Extra Life charity 24-hour marathon videos up, so all 24 hours of that is up. If you really want to sit there for a long-ass time watching me play video games, you can certainly do that. Follow me on Twitter at Andrew Eisen, and I have a Facebook page, Andrew Eisen YouTube. And who knows, maybe you'll see me on the Huffington Post again someday. Ooh. So, Zachary, plug away.
all right, you can follow me on Twitter, EZKnight, and you can also check out DK_gaming, and that's for DivineKnightGaming.com, my game development work. I'm hoping to get a game done for my one game a month stuff here in the next week or two. And then you can also check out the Oklahoma game development scene on Twitter at OKGameDevs, and it's okgamedev.com. And every once in a while, I do some game-related ranting over at randomtower.com. So check out those.
All right. And before we sign off, go back and play Little King's Story, because it was really good. That's all.
I think I remember seeing that game, and
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. You play a 7-year-old, and you control townspeople almost like Pikmin. You just throw them at monsters and stuff. It's kind of a Pikmin-esque strategy game. And it may look cute and cuddly, but it's a fairly challenging game. There's a lot of strategy into how you utilize your various townsfolk, and you build up a town. And basically, the idea of the game is to rescue this. Or kidnap. I'm not sure. There's probably some really, really weird ideas in this game. You basically go conquer. That's what you do. You conquer the 7 surrounding kingdoms, and by doing so, obviously the princess is now yours, and she'll happily go with you. And so you end up with 7 princesses, and it's all presented as a a 10 to 12-year-old's daydream. So that makes it all okay. It actually is kind of weird, but it's a fun game, so if you have a chance, check it out. Anyway, you've been listening to Super Podcast Action Committee, episode 123. You can follow us on Twitter at SuperPackPodcast, send us email at superpackpodcast@gmail.com, subscribe and rate us on iTunes, and like us on Facebook. If you hate watching our silly faces, you can actually listen to an audio version of the show, which will be which you might be listening to now. But for anyone still watching it, I do create audio versions of this, and they're up later in the week. You can find them on Game Politics. So that's it from us. Take care, everyone, and we will see you next week.
all right, see ya.